Wait.
The Chicago Bulls season is over. Changes are coming. When will it happen? What did it look? What will it look like? We'll have details coming up. The Chicago White Sox continue to embarrass themselves while the Cubs, they split with the Fighting Fish. The NBA playoffs tipped off, and I was very disappointed. The Stanley Cup Playoffs lived up to his billing, and the Bears draft is only 3 days away. Yay! For what it's worth. All that and a whole lot more as Second City Sports, the Monday edition, starts right now. Welcome to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakeem McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Byrne. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, at Keita's going in the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you frozen to be able to be about.
Toodles!
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on the sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your Android, or your PC, just head up to Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And happy Earth Day for all of you celebrate. You guys are going to do everything they can to keep our great Earth, clean and fresh and all of that. So if you're doing that while you're listening and watching us, welcome. We got a lot coming up here on Second City Sports. Of course, we got some sports media news. One of the things that a goat, not a literal goat, but one of the all-time greats is sporting greats is about to get his shot at being roasted. And also, too, some interesting NBA TV tidbits here with it coming up. Of course, Old School TV Monday. We got our new buddy, WGNTV's Chris Boden joining us to talk some. It's draft week, thank the Lord. NFL draft will commence in Detroit on Thursday. And also, too, of course, this weekend in baseball. Kind of disappointing for both sides of town. And, of course, the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs were, better than that. But first, Sid, we'll talk some Bulls as the Bulls are, they've gone bye-bye. They went bye-bye on Friday as they lose to the Heat once again in Miami. I guess beyond that, Arturas Karnisovas, of course, admitted in his end-of-the-year presser that this team's not good enough, that what they've been doing is not good enough, blah, 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 and whatnot. I know our buddy from CHGO, Bulls. Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson will across the world. We have a lot to say about that. You guys go through their CHO Bulls feed on YouTube, but I'll let you get the floor first on this, Sid, because I think we're gonna have the same mindset here. But what do you think about the end of the year of the game itself and then the end of the year presser?
As far as the game itself, very disappointed. We did say on this program during our NBA playoff preview show last Friday that it was possible that the Bulls would lose that game, but I didn't think they were going to play like that. And it was just flat out embarrassing. Now for the future of the franchise. As you mentioned, Arturas Karnisovas met with the media last Saturday afternoon. It lasted for only 18 minutes. I had a chance to listen to it all again this morning. And, of course, he's not going to tip his hand because you don't know what's going to happen. Plus, trades cannot concur, folks, until after the NBA Finals and after free agency kicks off on July 1st. But with that being said, this team has a tough road ahead. As we've been telling you guys all year, one of the issues that the Bulls will have to face, just like the other 29 teams in the NBA, the salary cap tax. And the Bulls are $1 million away from going over that tax. As we expect this team, Reinsdorf is not going to spend money with this team that cannot get into the playoffs going to next year. You cannot bring the same roster back. The last 2 years, look here, have I been saying on this show that basketball-wise, this team does not fit? It all starts with Zach LaVine. Now, I was all for him coming back, but deep down, congrats to Zach LaVine for getting his money, but was he overvalued by this Bulls franchise? Yes. And this is what happens when you don't have a star developed within, when you don't draft one, and you have to get somebody else's scraps from the scrap heap. This is what happens when you overvalue a star. Now, DeMar DeRozan, I believe, will be brought back. I think there's still question marks on the Patrick Williams. Will he? I know he's I believe a restricted free agent, and so teams can offer him a contract. If the Bulls don't match it, he'll go bye-bye. But the one valuable piece that Bulls fans must pay attention to, that's Alex Caruso. He still has 1 year remaining on his contract. As we said during the All-Star break, Lakina, he brings value to all the other teams that are currently in the playoffs right now. You can't tell me that Alex Caruso doesn't fit all the other 16 teams that are currently in the playoffs right now, especially the 90 miles north to us with the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Bulls have some tough decisions to make. You may have to say goodbye to Kobe White. You may have to say goodbye to Ayo Dosunmu if Zach LaVine is part of any trade package. But this organization has some tough decisions to make, and they got to have all hands on deck and plans in place to see how those plays can concur before the start of next season.
You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, stay around with you as we wrap up the Bulls season. Thank goodness. I mean, look, you know how I felt about this, and I've been saying it for the last few years. I'm going to be consistent on that. I mean, yeah, I know there are a lot of Bulls fans that want a complete teardown. That's not going to happen. You're not, the Bulls actually led the league in attendance this year, or they were in the top 5. So you're not going to be able to. Yeah. I mean, so now you're not going to be able to do that, if you got a bunch of no-name guys on the floor. That's not going to happen. So I think, look, if you do put LaVine in a trade package, would you have to maybe put in a Kobe White who is a finalist for most improved player, and all the other maybe you may have to put in a P. Will in there, or maybe an Io in there too. So I think for me it's going to be interesting, because I know that Casey Johnson said this right after the Bulls wrapped up, that they actually have offered DeMar DeRozan $40 million for $40 million a year for 2 years. So he wants to stay, but you got to give him a little bit of a better team to work with. So that's going to be the thing here. We know Reinsdorf is not going to want to go over that salary, that luxury tax. So you're kind of like still stuck in basketball purgatory. So it'll be interesting to see what Arturas Karnisovas does. Hopefully he does have a move up his sleeves, so maybe he can kind of get a big time player to work with DeRozan, and we'll see any other moves that they can make during the off season. So it's going to be all hands on deck, like you said, Sid. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And they got to decide on what they're going to do with Lonzo Ball. I know that I think it was Casey Johnson that asked him about what was the update on Lonzo, and AK said, we'll give you a further evaluation in a couple of months. And so I know Lonzo was just starting to return to the practice for starting lightly, of course. with his running drills and basketball drills, things along that nature. But they got to decide what they're going to do with him, because we all know that this team was drastically different when he went down 2 years ago, when the Bulls had the #1 record in the East. And was going to the rest of that roster this year. Javon Carter was a big disappointment. I thought Torrey Craig was okay when he was healthy, but remember, he missed a big chunk of the season. And Ayo Dosunmu, as you mentioned, did improve this year along with Kobe White. But basketball-wise, this roster does not work. I brought up Alex Caruso earlier. Keep this other name in mind. He was re-signed around this time last summer, Nikolai Vucevic. Could he go, or could Alex Caruso be moved? Because like we said before, we'll keep saying it again. This team, as constructed, cannot be brought back. If it is, you'll have to pay that luxury tax, and Reinsdorf is not doing that. So a couple of guys go have to pay for this. It could be Caruso, it could be Vucevic, but one or two of those guys will probably have to go to make this happen. If you want to be competitive in the Eastern Conference next year to get in that top 6, you have to make moves like these to get back into contention. Now, I heard the names of Paul George and maybe Trae Young. I don't think Paul George is leaving the Clippers, no matter what happens in that series against Dallas. And Trae Young, he's a nice player, but does he really make it that much better? The answer is no.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck in I know. Remember, PG is from that. I think he is from. No, he's not from there, but I think he likes it there in Los Angeles. I don't think I can't see him leaving. And Trae Young, look, we saw what happened, and look at a play-in game when the Bulls beat up Atlanta pretty badly. I mean, he was ready to go. So you don't want to have that kind of mindset like your team. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe some guys are going to have to go to kind of make this work. We'll have to, in order to bring somebody in. Look, we know that Reinsdorf. That's a whole different conversation. I know we all have our druthers with Reinsdorf on both the Bulls and the Sox side of things, but yeah, that's a different conversation for a different time. But yeah, I mean, it's something for AK to figure out, because you gotta think that he and Evers are in the hot seat. If they don't make any moves, if this team doesn't, make a move, standings wise, especially next year. Their season now getting warm too, so yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Bulls do, because like I said, you can't do a tear down because people are not gonna like that. So it's gonna be interesting to see what moves they have. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I know that AK said to in the presser last Saturday afternoon that he's been given full reins to do what he has to do by the Reinsdorf group. But here's the thing, Lakina: how much rope, no pun intended, that Arturas and Mark Eversley, how much rope do they really have? Because if they really have the rope, I think this thing would be torn down to the pieces. But if you still want to stay competitive, like you said, you're not tearing this thing down. And so you have to make smart moves, be creative, and you have to make some tough decisions. And if you want to stay competitive, but we all know that this team cannot stay together as is.
Oh boy, to be continued. We'll keep you guys out there, because really nothing can really happen until after the finals anyway. So you're basically we're just going to be talking about this for the next couple of months.
Yes, when we return, we'll have Chicago legendary sports broadcaster Chris Boden from WGNTV Chicago joining us to talk about the Bulls. We'll try not to make his skin crawl, and we'll get into the Bears and the Cubs and Sox as well. So stay right here. You're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports, live in the color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Call me Boogie in here. You follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, at Kids Growing on the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, especially for our next guest, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comments section. Makina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, so we've been wanting to get this guy on. We've had his colleagues on from WGNTV. You've seen him on, you've heard him and seen him on various spots as well over the years. But he always does a great job. Of course, like I say, he does great sports anchoring and reporting work over at WGNTV. Now he is the one, the only, the fabulous Mr. Chris Boden.
Yay!
Hey, what's up, Lakina? What's up, Sydney? You got the check in the mail. I take it with those kind words. I appreciate that.
Of course, How are you?
I'm doing fine. How about you guys? Tell me a little bit about this. How long you guys been doing it? And this is great. I'm glad I can jump on with you.
Well, we've been doing this since I've been doing this with Lakina since 2016, I believe. Lakina full time, and we did our show down in downtown Chicago on the old ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. I was doing another couple of shows on that frequency as well, and so. Lakina had a spot open, so I used to fill in for a couple of people on her show that didn't show up, and then I started working my way up there, and I've been doing this with her ever since, and so it's been one heck of a ride, and just wanted to keep doing this as long as you can, I can. So in this business, longevity is the key, but not everybody gets to experience it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know that as good as anybody, but good to hear. I'm glad to be on with you guys. How you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
We're doing good. We're happy to have you on with us. So, all right, Bears NFL draft will be commencing on Thursday in Detroit. Assuming Kayla Lewis goes number 1, if you were the Bears, if you're Ryan Poles, what would you do with that number 9 pick?
Well, obviously, it depends on who's all there. But if and we've heard this name for weeks now. If the wide receiver from Washington, Roma Dunze, is there, I'd certainly love to see them pick him. Get Caleb Williams with a guy that he can grow with, lean on over the course of the next. Hopefully, knock on wood, if this is a different quarterback than the ones that we've known over the course of the past 30, 40 years or so. Hopefully this guy's different, and hopefully, Roma Dunze, from everything I hear, I don't watch these guys nearly as much as the experts do who put out all the mock drafts, but everyone says this guy's going to be a great player. Maybe not quite in the level or the mold of Marvin Harrison Jr., who is perhaps a notch above a Dunze and Malik Neighbors from LSU, but nevertheless worthy of the number 9 overall pick. So if he's there, I'd like to see them go for him. But knowing the brief sample size of 2 years that we have with Ryan Poles, he only has 4 picks right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone is anxious to move up at number 9, they give him a good deal, not to move too far down in the first round, to still get some value for a need, whether it's an offensive tackle or an edge rusher or a 3 technique to go down, whether it's 4 or 5 spots or something like that. I would have to imagine one of the quarterbacks would still have to be there at 9, which I kind of doubt. But if he's there at 9 and Roma Dunze is there, this is a blue chip player, and you never want to trade down in order to bypass a blue chip player who could be great for you over the course of the next, 6, 8, 10 years. And from what I heard from everybody else, Dunze is that type of player. And we just don't know how long Keenan Allen's going to be around. That's a great acquisition, but he's only on a 1-year deal. So he's had his share of health issues off and on throughout the year. Hopefully they can get a full season out of Keenan Allen, who is a great pickup for Caleb Williams, by the way, because apparently those two have a past relationship. But if this is a one and done for Keenan Allen, then you have DJ Moore and Roma Dunze that you can move forward with with Caleb Williams in his development.
You mentioned about the trade for Keenan Allen for the 4th round pick to the Chargers. And speaking of Ryan Poles, what letter grade would you give him as far as a free agency? Of course, they picked up DeAndre Swift from Philadelphia. You mentioned about Keenan Allen. And then they traded for a couple of offensive linemen early in free agency. What letter grade right now would you give GM Ryan Poles for his moves he's done so far?
Well, I would say for this offseason, yeah, we have yet to see what the results are going to be. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wait 7-8 months to see how this all pans out. But in terms of the moves themselves, I'd probably give him A-, B+ with an opportunity to be even better than that. And if you're talking about the course of his first 2 years, more hits than misses, but some of those misses or things that he hasn't addressed. And granted, I get his argument that you're not going to fix everything all at once with what he was facing in rebuilding this team. But, overall, I'd probably give him a B to B- grade with the recognition that, there have been misses with the trade for Claypool. The first move he made was to sign Larry Ogunjobi, who is going to be that 3 technique stud defensive lineman, and he couldn't even pass a physical. So he had to back off from that. And there have been other, draft picks, whether it's Velus Jones Jr., a couple other signings along the way that haven't quite panned out. So it hasn't been perfect, but there aren't really any perfect general managers unless you have, I guess Patrick Mahomes sitting in your driver's seat at quarterback. But overall, I really like the job that he's done. And is there room for improvement? Sure, but maybe that comes here. This is going to be the swing decision when they announce that name on Thursday night, a little bit after 7:00 our time. Whether he is going to be a long-term general manager here with the Bears or, and that's, knock on wood, what we hope is the case, or if for whatever reason Caleb Williams turns out to be the kind of quarterback that unfortunately we're all too familiar with here in Chicago for whatever reason, then Ryan Poles' shelf life won't last nearly as long. But I know we're hoping the opposite of that happens.
What do you think about the Justin Fields trade to Pittsburgh? Do you think they could have gotten more? Do you think Poles overestimated his value?
Yeah, I thought if he would have pulled the trigger a little bit sooner, the market would have been greater. But by the same token, when you look at teams that, and Grant, he wasn't going to trade him to a division rival in Minnesota. Minnesota obviously needed a quarterback after Kirk Cousins left, but there are still teams out there that need quarterbacks that are even below, the top three right now, where we all figure those top three quarterbacks are going to go. And if there wasn't that great a market for those teams to want Justin Fields, I think that kind of sets a framework for what other teams across the league thought about Justin. Grant, we here in Chicago all loved what he did and thought there was still a little bit more to Justin's ceiling. But I think at the time, he was still figuring out, whether Caleb Williams was going to be his guy. That process hadn't completely played out yet in terms of, the visit to Hallis Hall, all the vetting and all the interviews that he wanted to do concerning Caleb Williams. So he had to take his time and make sure that would be a certainty, something that he would be comfortable with. And along those lines, time passes, and obviously teams make up their minds about what they want to do at the quarterback position. Other spots were filled around the league, and as a result, Justin's value, whatever it may have been, say, ahead of the whole draft process, as the weeks went along, it probably devalued as free agency and other teams were filling their needs. And I also do believe Poles. I think he's a pretty honest guy when he says he wanted to do good by Justin and put him in the best position. So there is a window that's open there in Pittsburgh. If Russell Wilson doesn't do good on Mike Tomlin right out of the gate, I'm sure Justin Fields is going to have an opportunity. And I think Poles was kind of looking for that type of situation, and also put him in a team that isn't going to burn him twice a year, or that you would see regularly in case Justin turns out to be what everyone thought his potential could be, but hadn't reached it yet here in his first 3 years in Chicago.
Chris, you know us as well as I do that the Chicago is a Bears town, and when Justin Fields was traded, everybody had an opinion whether you were Team Justin or Team Caleb. And we know there was a few talk show hosts here in town that they were in support. They thought that Caleb was a better option. If that was your opinion, that's fine. Of course, that tag generational talent came out, and everybody lost it, including yours truly. Now, did I think that Caleb Williams was the best quarterback in college football? Yes, but my frustration was, tell me why he's a potential generational talent, and I couldn't get an answer. Lakina watches more college football than I do. Even she couldn't tell me, so she couldn't tell me. That I don't know where that came from, but I wanted to get your opinion on your thoughts on. What was your thoughts on the division or within the Bears fandom, or between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields? Because it got ugly at times from sitting in this seat.
Yeah. I love Justin and the way he has handled himself, through some pretty trying circumstances over his years here in Chicago. My concern was that, all right, no matter what you have around you over the course of the 3 years, and there were challenges both in terms of person.
Mm-hmm.
Third year here wrapped up. And I had my doubts about that too. I was looking for a little greater jump. Now, is Luke Getsy going to turn out to be one of the better offensive coordinators in the league for years to come? I'm not sure, because he was a rookie at that job also. But I thought, based on, and I lean on people who have watched college football a lot longer than I have and watched it a lot more closely than I have. Based on what they had to say about Caleb Williams, I think there were less questions about what he could do on the field than about what made him tick and his mindset and his devotion to the game off the field. I think all those questions have been answered in a pretty positive way. And if you weren't sure, they're probably even more stamped and reinforced if you happen to see his interview on the Ryan Clark podcast that came out late last week.
Mm-hmm. Did we lose him?
Yeah.
Oh, we froze up. Oh, okay, that's okay. We lose the second season sports. The sports are Keith McGee, Steve Brown with you. We got Chris Boden here. Hopefully, we can kind of reconnect with him. I think his Wi-Fi froze on him, but hopefully we can get him back on that now. So that Ryan Clark podcast, I actually watched a little bit of it and listened to a little bit of it. It'll be interesting to see how Bears fans kind of, especially once it's official, it'll be interesting to see how people will respond, to that particular podcast there, and some of the mindset of it. Like I look for me, as long as he throws touchdowns and keeps himself and composes himself off the field. I mean, I don't look. You want to wear fingernail polish, fine. If he wants to, go out with his friends, whatever. But it's just like one of those things where you're kind of like, oh.
Yeah, we had an athlete that did that who brought championships to the town. His name was Dennis Rodman. So anybody that says that we hadn't had an athlete like that, go do some homework. But I saw the interview, Lakina. We talked about it a little bit before we came on air. I was very impressed about, first of all, I want to say, and I said this at the time after the Justin Fields trade, I have nothing personal against Caleb Williams. He didn't bring all this nonsense to himself. There's been other people that has nothing to do with him that brought this extra pressure on him. But I was very impressed with how he talked about his background, and he really gave praise to both of his parents. I know some people in the media tried to make his father to be quote unquote crazy, to lack a better term, but he has very much his upbringing and his personality. Thank both of his parents for, and so I was very impressed by the young man. He's definitely showing leadership qualities. Like I said, I had nothing personal against him, never did. So I hope he does well. The Bears need him to do well, and head coach Matt Eberflus needs him to do well because he's in his third year, and the Bears don't make the playoffs, he'll be out of a job.
Yeah, you see, we got Chris back, so let's try one more time with Mr. Boden here. Chris, Chris? Can you hear us? Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So we'll try that again. Yeah. I mean that I mean, like you said, I mean that whole thing with with the I guess his dad, and he always has a bad rep. Hugging his mom. After that Washington game. I mean, I think look when they lost. Look, I think for me, I think that whole thing is just like, well, okay, you know what? You can't really get into kind of all the minutia of it. So. Look, like you said, Sid, I mean, Dennis Rodman, as long as, look, he got into a little bit of messes, but look, all he had to do was produce, and that's all Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan wanted him for. So, it's sort of one of those days where, like, you just kind of have to, just kind of grin and bear it. Like, look, I know Jalen Johnson, I know he said some comments about, well, he's going to have to adjust to, his mindset. We're going to give him a little bit of welcome to the NFL and, not have too big of an ego. So, just see what happens, especially if they struggle. If they struggle, that's going to be the key here.
Yeah, as we talked about before too, following that Justin Fields trade, for the fans that gave Justin Fields heat, are they going to give the same heat to Caleb Williams when he starts? Because that's going to happen too. Not to wish it on the young man, but that's just the nature of the beast. And from what I gathered, watching that podcast yesterday, he's a very confident young man. He's very secure in himself on what he is. He's willing to learn. He's willing to take everything in and turn all negative into positive. And that's what you'd like to see and hear from a leader. We all know that the quarterbacks, whether you're talking about college or the NFL, they're the faces of the franchise, and that's just the way it is. So it's never going to go away. So you have to represent your teammates, your team, in the franchise in a positive light, whether you win or lose. And it looks like he's ready for that challenge. And like we talked about before, all the unwanted pressure coming in from the outside, not from his camp, but from other pundits and some fans from the outside. I'm really interested to see how he's going to handle it. I know he said not to give the whole interview away. I want people to check it out. It's the pivot with Caleb Williams, which was released over the weekend. But he talked about just I know he says he has a significant other now, but mostly he talked about keeping it to himself, and all he's focusing in is on football, and which is a great thing to hear. But I know he has practice of that already, playing in Los Angeles with USC. We all know that's the unofficial pro team in town. They have the Rams and the Chargers in the NFL. But he's one of the first athletes to take advantage of this name, image, and likeness rule in college football. So he has money in the bank already. He doesn't have an agent, but he says he has attorneys already in place. So we already know that he has his business in place, which is a very good thing. because it takes athletes a while to get their business behind the scenes in places. Some folks just don't do it at all. But it seems like that young man has his head on his shoulders, and he's ready for anything, and that's what you like to see and hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, Crispo will get back with us. If not, look, we can do it too with we can do it with him again another time. But the NFL draft, coming up on Thursday later this week, and you're gonna be seeing some stories. Malik Neighbor shared a story about his grandfather, and I think I think he went blind. I think he had to kind of listen to as he was playing his games over at LSU. We saw I think Michael Penix penned a nice little diary, like he's heard all the stuff about he's had 2 knee injuries, he had 2 ACL surgeries. He was at Indiana, had to come back to Washington, had a great 2 years there. And some people say he probably can't make it in the NFL. What if he gets hurt again? And so we're going to be hearing all types of stories and all the other kind of great human interest stuff coming up, because you like to see this kind of thing with NFL draftees and sharing who influenced them growing up and everything else. We know about Caleb Williams and his parents. We know Marvin Harrison Jr. and even though his dad, who of course Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison Sr. Has kind of kept a little bit in the background to kind of let Junior have his moment in the spotlight. So for me, I think this is kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing in the NFL draft coming up on Thursday.
I don't know if you caught this last night, Lakina. Props out to our other friend of the show and colleague, Cassie Carlson from Fox 32 Chicago. She did a story on J.J. McCarthy. She talked to his high school coach and his quarterback coach from LaGrange Park. Just out, it's a western suburb, just outside of Chicago. And they were both of them were talking about how he likes to give back to children. He was doing that while he was in high school. He was doing that while he was at Michigan. And, of course, he said that he's just a kid from LaGrange Park after he won the national championship last year with Michigan being the University of Washington. So, J.J. McCarthy, you want to root for people like that. But I wanted to ask you, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, his name is starting to move up the draft boards. Of course, I know, now former ex-head coach of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, now with the Chargers, gave him high praise, and rightfully so. But he's this year's Will Levis, and I think J.J. McCarthy can succeed in the NFL, but in my opinion, I think he can, if it's the right situation, sit for a couple years, and then he can come in, which is not a bad thing. I know people that are selected in the high to mid-first rounds, they're expected to be difference makers right away, but I think in the right situation, I think J.J. McCarthy can sit for about a year or two, and then get on from there. Because from the limited time that I've seen him play actually live on TV, not on YouTube, I think he's a little bit of a better version of Trent Dilfer. I know people can laugh at that. Trent Dilfer, whether you like it or not, has the Super Bowl ring, folks. And I know J.J. McCarthy won one or two of those things, but of course, he put up great numbers at Michigan, but he was really backed up by a better supporting cast with Blake Corum as the running back, of course, by their defense on the other side. But Minnesota, from what we hear, they're trying to move up to get him. I don't know if that's going to happen, but he's this year's Will Levis. Will it pay off? We'll see.
Yeah, remember they don't have a quarterback, and I know Minnesota doesnn't. So, that's probably not a good situation to come in right away, because you may be starting right away if you're him, and if they get drafted in Minnesota. Now I've heard Washington too is another thing that's perhaps being floated around as well. Perhaps maybe I don't know if he'll be drafted that high, but they'll be interested to see if he does go in the late first rounds or the mid first rounds, or perhaps maybe be an early second round guy. He is a great leader, so I think that also helps as well, and he kind of has that. Kind of commands the room, with other players. You see some of his former teammates in Michigan giving him high praise consistently. All Big Ten for 3 years he was there. He was a starter there. So yeah, he's definitely kind of like that guy that can kind of be a difference maker. Now, like you said, Dilfer's got a Super Bowl in kind of a similar fashion. That Michigan got it. Well, I would give Michigan the offense a little bit more credit. That Baltimore 2000 Baltimore team, they won the Super Bowl. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. We're going to be seeing, guys, trading up. I know his name's being thrown around. Perhaps maybe Harris's name's being thrown around. Maybe he might go down. So there are going to be a lot of guys that are going to be kind of going to be interesting to see, Rome Odunze, that he might go up. That by the time the Bears get their second number one, the first round pick, at 9 that he may not be there. Another one of those receivers will be there. They may go with the all line. So it's gonna be interesting what they do here. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot interesting to I expect big ratings over there at the NFL draft at the various networks, both ESPN, ABC, and the NFL Network, because of the fact that there's so much uncertainty after the number 1 pick. So there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be kind of like, I think after number 2, we'll see who ends up going where.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago, the Monday edition. Sid Lakina here with you, talking Bears in the NFL draft. Lakina, I wanted to ask you if Rome Odunze is not there, and or if Malik Neighbors is not there, would you trade down if you were Ryan Poles, you sitting in Ryan Poles' seat?
I would, because you only have 4 picks, so we're just to see if that kind of is the case here. But I see we got Chris back on with us, so let's try one more time with WGNTV.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. There was some disconnect. I was trying my iPad. This is the phone now, so hopefully this will hang on for a bit with you guys. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. So we'll ask you about that. If Odunze, Harrison Jr., Neighbors, if they're gone by 9, do you see Ryan Poles maybe trading back to try to get an O-lineman perhaps, or maybe draft O-lineman at 9?
Yeah, that would be my inclination, as long as it's not too far back, so he can get something quality wise, perhaps down into the mid-teens, something like that. I could see him making that move. And obviously it all depends on how aggressive some of those teams behind them want to get up and get a particular player. And I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about Braxton Jones. Serviceable, done great things for where he was drafted. Is he that guy, that blindside guy that Caleb and the whole franchise is going to be relying on? If Caleb is what he is, protecting him and keeping him healthy over the course of 8 or 10 years. So whether it's a quality left tackle, including his old high school teammate who went on to play for Penn State, whether he's still sitting there, you can move back far enough to get him, or perhaps one of those edge rushers if you really believe in one of those guys who can make an immediate impact on Matt Eberflus's defense. I could see him moving back if Odunze is the guy they have their eye on, or one of those wideouts is one of the guys they have their eye on at 9. If none of them are there and he feels he can move back comfortably enough to still get someone who could fill one of those needs along the offensive line or the defensive line, I could certainly see him doing that.
You brought up head coach Matt Eberflus. I want to ask you this. We all know that he's going into his 3rd year. First 2 years, no playoffs, but they did improve last year mainly because of the defense. Let's just say the Bears don't make the playoffs next year, but they improved to 9 wins, or him forbid, I'm using air quotes here, 10 wins but barely missed the playoffs. Do you think that Matt Eberflus still keeps his job, or does he get the pink slip?
No, I think he would keep his job, and part of the reason for that would be if Caleb at least gives you consistent glimpses, if not something better than that over the course of the season, for continuity's sake. It would be an improvement over the 7 wins here, and B, I think everybody's fear is that this team falls on his face and puts Ryan Poles in a position where he'll be forced to make a move and then bring in an entirely new coaching staff, which is the same mistake that they did under Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields. So if there is that type of improvement, and then you're seeing at least flashes of Caleb Williams living up to the greatness that a number 1 overall quarterback should be, then I don't think there's any way Eberflus would be dismissed, as long as there is a step up in the win column and at least being in the hunt over the course, of the final month to get in the playoffs and keep that interest going. Whether they cross that finish line and make it to the postseason or not, who knows? But I think as long as there is visual improvement to the naked eye, if not in the standings, Ryan Poles has expressed his belief in Matt Eberflus, that he's his guy, despite what they went through the first 2 months of the season last year. I think the way they rebounded and finished has given Ryan Poles enough faith in Eberflus that yeah, if they're in that same neighborhood where they improve from 7 wins or so to 9 or 10, yeah, I don't think there'll be any reason for him to dismiss him.
We'll do a couple non-Bears questions here. Now the Cubs, they're very disappointing sweep, a disappointing split, I should say, against the Marlins. So, but it looks like they're gonna get some reinforcements. It looks like Suzuki is gonna be light workouts. Justin Steele's been cleared for light workouts. So, where do you think the Cubs' ceiling is going to be this year, and can they live up to being the favorites in that NL Central?
Well, as long as they're not blown up by injuries long term here, or don't have any serious problems with those moving forward, I think they probably should be favorites to win the division. Milwaukee's always going to be there, even without Counsell there, because they have an infrastructure in place with their farm system. I think we started to see last year that Cincinnati's really an up-and-coming team. They're going to be pretty dangerous and hard to deal with over the coming years as well. But, applying all these ifs, if they can, get Suzuki back to full health, that may still be 3 weeks away. Same deal maybe with Justin Steele as well, as he's going to go down to Arizona after that live batting practice yesterday. Hopefully he is 2 or 3 weeks away. And as long as there's not any catastrophic injuries and they can keep primarily that pitching staff in decent shape, along with Adbert Alzolay, or finding someone who can close games on a consistent basis, I think they should be favorites to win the division. Whether that comes to fruition or not, I think it's amazing through all the bumps that they have that they're still only 2 games out of first place at this point. The offense has been real inconsistent. They lost Steele. They lost Julian Merriweather. Ian Happ says, he thinks he's pretty confident he can come back starting tomorrow night against Houston. They lost their best hitter early in the season in Suzuki a week ago. And, hopefully he doesn't have any setbacks either. So that being said, yeah, I think this team should be in contention for the division title, if not a wild card spot.
You answered my question about the Cubs bullpen, but I'll ask you my question about Kyle Hendricks. Of course, the 4th inning was rough for him yesterday, which cost the Cubs the game, as Lakina mentioned. What would you do with Kyle Hendricks at this point? Would you sit him down, i.e., skip him a start, or do you have some other plan that most fans don't know about? What would you do with Kyle Hendricks at this point? Does he deserve another chance?
I would. I mean, just based on track record, we were talking about this on GN Sports last night when I was co-hosting with Caitlin Sharkey. He's not a power pitcher. He's more of an up here pitcher in terms of location and placement. I think that got a little bit better yesterday. Was it to the extent that everyone was hoping? No. He gave up a solo homer for the first 3 innings, and then it started getting away from him location-wise. And there weren't any really hard hit balls in that 4th inning for Florida. I don't know. I just have a certain trust in Kyle Hendricks in that, he's a guy who's been around long enough to figure it out. Now, the wild card is he's not a guy that you can stick in the bullpen to try and figure out, because he's never pitched out of there in his entire career. And if they do cut him loose, do I think another contender down the road can pick him up and he eventually will figure it out? Yeah, I think that's one of the risks you might run, especially if it's another, say, Central Division team that could jump on and bite it. Now, I don't want to operate out of that fear, but I'm just of the opinion now. You've got Tyon back healthy. You've got Imanaga, who's pitched tremendously so far. Javier Assad is just a dude who goes out there and gets outs. So you have him in the rotation, although you have the option down the road to stick him in the bullpen and be a long reliever, kind of like, they're bouncing Ben Brown back and forth. So you have these other options in the starting rotation. You're only sitting 2 games out of first place right now. I would still give him a little rope to try and figure it out. And if this continues over, say, 2 more starts, then you have a tough call to make. And the thing is, Craig Counsell doesn't have any emotional ties to Kyle Hendricks because he's the new guy and he decides how much rope he wants to give these pitchers. So he certainly has the right to do that. We heard him have some similar comments that we heard yesterday of him talking about Hendricks that he had about Adbert Alzolay the day before when he blew that 4th save. So there is a certain line that Craig Counsell is going to draw. with the people in the front office who have been around here longer than he, maybe they bend his ear and say, hey, let's try and give Kyle another start or two to maybe figure this out. Because if he does figure it out, he's going to be pretty valuable here the remainder of the season. You just have to come to the conclusion one way or another. If you give him those opportunities, whether he's at the end of the line or whether he's going to be a guy who can, help you through the remainder of the season, the rest of May, June, July, August, etc.
Should be interesting. Last couple of moments with our new friend, WGNTV's Chris Boden here on Second City Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. I know you did pre and post for the Blackhawks for a couple of years. Of course, you got Connor Bedard, Tyler Johnson, Frank Nazir now. What do you think the ceiling is for the Hawks? He'll come in the next couple of seasons for Kyle Davidson. What moves do you think he'll end up making?
Well, it's time to start seeing some progress right now. I mean, the deep rebuild will, I think, officially end after this draft, depending on, what pick they end up having. It's still going to be a top 4 pick regardless of where things are in the lottery. The hope is that you can have that horseshoe once again and have the number 1 pick, because there is a drop off after this year's number 1 pick, Macklin Celebrini, who played a couple years here at the Chicago Steel. But it's time now to start seeing the fruits of the labor of all that draft capital that you built up over the course of the last couple of years. And apparently, judging by others' evaluations of what they did in the draft and the farm system that they built and the prospects that they have, is a pretty strong group. Now it's about whether you have developed them correctly, and you want to start seeing the fruits of that labor. They've had a lot of guys spend an entire year down in Rockford. There are a handful of other prospects that are still playing at the college level. You should start seeing those fruits, develop and start showing up in Chicago over the course of the next couple of years. But the fans have been very devoted. We actually saw a slip in the number of wins and the number of points this year, even after getting Connor Bedard. So they're still showing up at the United Center. So Kyle Davidson, I think, knows, and he said that at his closing press conference on Saturday, it's time to start seeing more victories. So I would love to see him go out and, get a top 6 forward in free agency, or if not a trade, but free agency would be preferable. Same thing with another defenseman to solidify around the young crop of blue liners that they have at Rockford and will be coming up through college. So I would love to see a couple of impact signings in free agency. And then hopefully all these other kids start taking the next step, whether they're ready at the NHL level next year or 2 years down the line. But I think fans have been extremely patient so far. They've understood how much digging they had to do as part of this rebuild. And now I think everyone's ready to, I don't think they'll be at the point where they'll be contending for the playoffs next year, but at least, make that jump from, 52 points this season, get up there in the high 60s or low 70s next season, be competitive more consistently. And I think if fans see that kind of progress, they'll be able to accept that. And I think Kyle Davidson understands that, and he knows he's going to have to make it, at least a significant move or two, and hopefully get guys like Taylor Hall and have them healthy for a full year. I thought he would have been a tremendous asset if he was to play a full season. Unfortunately, he got injured early on. So, I think there's a stepped up level of urgency for the Blackhawks and Kyle Davidson heading into next season.
Another Chicago franchise that needs changes and needs to step up their urgency, and that's the Chicago Bulls, of course. Arturas Karnisovas met with the media on Saturday for 18 minutes. He says that this, like we've known for the last couple of years, this roster hasn't worked. They're going to try to trade Zach LaVine again. How many times we've heard that? It looks like DeMar DeRozan may be back with the Bulls, but after that, anything is fair game. So we want to ask you, Chris, what do you see from this Bulls this offseason? I don't think it's going to be a full teardown. I know some Bulls fans still want that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Rhinos are still going to tell them to, make this a competitive team next year. Of course, me and Lakina talked about this before we brought you on, that the Bulls led the league in attendance this year. Shocking, isn't it? So I don't think the teardown is coming. But what do you think the Bulls are going to do this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, Arturas has finally seen the light that we've kind of seen for at least, a year now? This group is, when you look at the top of the East, who are they going to jump over? Who are they better than? Especially when you look at the top 4 or 5 teams in the East. how they do this. Are you going to be able to find a taker for Zach LaVine? Can you at least find a taker and bite the bullet, whether you're going to have to pay part of his salary or practically give him away, just in order to just kind of clear the decks here? And, I thought it was kind of interesting what DeMar had to say after the game the other night. I think he's starting to think, he's starting to see what we all see. And will he be as anxious to re-sign with the Bulls or not? I think he understands he has maybe 2 or 3 good years left. How much faith is he going to have in the Bulls in putting more pieces around him? And Arturas can talk a good game, but until certain things need to be done with the way they are locked in kind of like salary cap hell, unless he can find a way to make some moves and free up some space and bring in some fresh blood, I just don't know how they're going to be able to do this. He's going to have to be really lucky to find a taker to probably take Zach LaVine off his hands. If he can't do that, then he's going to have a decision to make that even if DeMar wants to return, whether he can turn this thing around with having DeMar here. He may, if he has to continue to keep Zach LaVine, he may have to say goodbye to DeMar and find someone else who might fit better structurally in their salary cap situation, and hope, right now they're sitting at number 11 in the first round of the draft. Hopefully they get some lottery balls to bounce the way the Blackhawks did last year. Not necessarily have the top overall pick, because quite frankly, I'm not sure if there is a head and shoulders number 1 overall pick in this year's draft anyway in the NBA. So at least get someone you can stick in there right away and be a valuable rotation piece, preferably an athletic big. That's something that they're lacking right now. Hope you can get a player like that who can, meld into what they have, whether it's going to be DeMar along with Kobe and Ayu. They're stuck with Nikola Vucevic for another 2 years because they decided to sign him to a 3-year contract extension. So based on all that financial maneuvering, I don't know how he's going to do it. I'm glad he realizes it, but I certainly hope he finds some suitors who would allow him to make some moves and, prevent him from bringing the whole group back again. And I think he understands that it's just a matter of how.
Oh, it's been so much fun, Chris, and I'm glad we were able to kind of get in with no problem. So this is so much fun. So where we can find you on social media and on TV at WGN? Yeah,
I'm at Boden Tweets on X, and just Chris Boden on Facebook. And GN, we got a great group over there. I hope everyone else enjoys watching GN Sports every night at 10:30. We like putting it on. I think there's an audience for it still. People love seeing a 30-minute devoted show to Chicago sports every night of the week. And we got a great team over there with JP and Caitlin and Josh Friedman and all the producers do a great job behind the scenes as well. So hope you guys keep tuning in, and we'll keep trying to give you guys what you want. So appreciate you having me on.
All right, great job, Chris. As Lakina said, thank you for coming back on. We're glad that we can make this work. You tell everybody over there at the sports department at WGN we said hello. You guys keep up the great work, and we'll definitely have you on again soon.
All right, sorry for the interruption, Lakina and Sadie, but thanks for having me on, and look forward to doing this again soon.
All right, thank you.
We're glad we were able to got it through. We made it through this time. So
yes.
little victories.
Take it easy.
All
right, you too.
Yes,
take care.
Right. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. All right. Of course, that's Chris Bowen for WGNTV. So we might as well just go straight through here, with no commercial breaks, because we still got we're about halfway through the half past the hour. This is Second Stage Sports.
We'll do an audible.
They'll do an audible here. Well, Omaha, as Peyton Manning would say. Well, we'll get to Mr. Manning in a second, because you see him doing a little bit of roasting here, but we'll get to that in a second. So let's talk some NBA playoffs here. All the home teams went 8-0. So. That's basically it. Good night, everybody. No, I'm kidding. But I gotta say, which opener was the most impressive for you?
This was easy. Last night's Oklahoma City New Orleans Pelicans contest in Game 1 of that series. Of course, Oklahoma City held on for a 94-92 victory. Of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a great game. On the flip side, Trey Murphy III had a very good performance. I thought for New Orleans Pelicans. CJ McCollum had some big shots as well. I know he missed the potential game winner with missing that 3-point shot at the end there. Great defense by Wiggins of the Thunder, by the way. But watching that game, Lakina, I don't know about you. The Thunder came out on fire, and it was very low scoring, by the way. It reminds you of the 80s and most of the 90s NBA basketball. If you love that kind of basketball, last night's score was an indicator of that. But watching that game, Oklahoma City was in control on the scoreboard, but they couldn't quite put the Pelicans away. New Orleans, as I mentioned, with Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum, they fought their way back. Brandon Ingram had some big plays too. They kept fighting back. They took the lead briefly, but Oklahoma City, like I said, came through at the end. Chet Holmgren in his first playoff game had a very good performance. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came through. He's a top 3 MVP candidate, by the way, as far as the nominees for the award. Probably Jokic is going to get that from Denver, but I digress. But also, too, my guy Jalen Williams had some big buckets last night for the Thunder as well.
Yeah, that was a really interesting game yesterday because some of the other games were blowouts. So I was just like, okay, at least this one was actually pretty entertaining for the most part. So, but SGA just shows you why he is one of the top 3 candidates for an NBA MVP because he was just he made the big plays when he needed to. He made the big defensive stops when he needed to as well. And it's one of those things where you're just like, could perhaps maybe the Pelicans could steal one maybe in a couple of days. I know. But they're going to need, like I said, Murphy was really good, but they're going to need McCollum to step up. They're going to need Ingram. Ingram was a big reason why the Pelicans were able to beat the Kings in the play-in on Friday. That's the other play-in game. But, I think it's going to be this may not be a tough, this might not be an easy out for the Thunder. So we'll see, because they haven't been in this situation before. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. They passed the test so far. Let's see if they can keep it up.
Yeah, and also, too, for New Orleans, Jonas Valanciunas, he needs to step up offensively as well because he was MIA on the stat sheet last night in terms of being an offensive presence. But check out these statistics from the Thunder. Even though they lost up by 2, they shot 38.5% overall, 28% from 3, and they were still in that ball game. And Oklahoma City couldn't put them away. Now, the Pelicans got to tighten up a couple of things, but I think if they can, I think they'll still game 2. I believe they play tomorrow. If not Wednesday, we'll go through the schedule in just a second. But New Orleans has a great chance to still game 2 because they damn near did it last night.
Yeah. So we'll see if they can keep it up there in that front. Now, another one here that some people probably may say be a little bit surprised by is Milwaukee. The Milwaukee just hammered Indiana, and that's behind Mr. Dame Dalla. Was just a big. And I know we talked about it during our NBA playoff preview with the guys. You can go back and listen to it and watch it on the YouTube channel. But look, I mean, for Dame, this is his first rodeo here, so he's made big shots to the playoffs. He's played in the playoffs, so he knows what it takes to win. It's not like this is his first rodeo. He had 35 points, including 6-11 from 3-point range. But the key is for him is that everyone's got to step up. I know Middleton had 23 and 10 rebounds. During in that game 1, it was just their defense that kind of overpowered them. So, but Dame do this for 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 games because he has to consistently because he's gonna need help.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Chris Middleton has to step up. Malik Beasley has to step up. Pat Connaughton has to step up as well if they want to move over to the next round. But I want to focus in on the flip side for the Pacers. I know Pascal Siakam had 36 in his playoff debut with the Indiana Pacers, but excuse me, I got the feeling watching that game, Lakina, that nobody else really wanted to step up because I don't know if it was the pressure of the moment or Milwaukee was, I'm not going to say they were in their heads or whatever it was, just like no one else wanted to help out Pascal Siakam. The Pacers shot the ball overall at 39%, but only 21% for 3. As we talked about, Lakina, Indiana is one of the most highest scoring teams in the league, and they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league too, next to the Atlanta Hawks, who sitting with us on summer vacation. But the Pacers have to shoot the ball better. They didn't do that last night. They may have gotten scared of the moment, But like you said, Damian Lillard had 35 first half points alone, and that's what set the tone for the Milwaukee Bucks. So Indiana's just going to have to shoot the ball better and play better defense. We'll see what happens in game 2. What kind of defensive game plan that Rick Carlisle will have in trying to stop Damian Lillard.
8 for 20, 8 for 30, 8 for 38 from 3-point range. The Pacers were. That's not going to get it done. And other than him and other than Siakam and Miles Turner, I know T.J. McConnell had 10 points off the bench. There was really no other scoring. So, Tyrese Halliburton had his worst showing. He only had 9 points. You're gonna have to do a little bit more than that, buddy, if you want to pull off this upset. So it's gonna be interesting to see, what happens here. I mean, like Obi Toppin's gonna have to step up. I mean, they've got guys gonna have to step up for Indiana, and I think, look, if you let Dame get hot and they have other guys behind him, like you said, like the Middletons, like the Connaughtons, and Bobby Portis, like this series gonna be over pretty quick. And if you're the Pacers, you don't want that. If you're Rick Carlisle, especially, you don't want it. So we'll see what happens in that series.
Yep. Sorry, the Dallas Mavericks, they lose game 1 of their. Sorry, the Dallas Mavericks lose game 1 of their series to the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round of that series, 109-97. Kawhi Leonard did not play yesterday, but James Harden had a big game. Paul George decided to show up, especially from the outside. Zubac had their big man had a career high 20 points and 15 rebounds. And watching that game, Lakina, I thought that on Friday I picked the Clippers to win the series in 7, but the Clippers established Zubac early, especially from the inside, and Dallas just couldn't keep up, and the Clippers shot the ball well overall at 46%, 50% from 3. And Lakina, the Clippers, for the first time and probably since their winning streak almost 2 months ago, they got physical with the Dallas Mavericks. We talked about them. On the flip side, we talked about the Mavericks being tough after they acquired P.J. Washington and former Bull Daniel Gafford prior to the trade deadline, and that's what helped turn that team around. But the Clippers set the tone actually yesterday with them setting the tone with their own physical play.
Yeah, and I think that I saw a little bit. Zubac, got a little bit of Bill Walton during the '77, the playoffs for Portland. I mean, that's kind of how he looked like. I mean, look, he was, he was definitely physical on the boards. I think he had a couple. I think he blocked Luka's shot at one point and had 11 defensive rebounds. So that was huge for them. Kind of kept the Dallas at bay and on the rebounding front.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's gonna have to step up a little bit too. I mean, look, I don't think he'll be able to keep it up, but I think send that tone. I think is going to be the key here. Now, if you're Dallas, Luka did his thing and so did Kyrie, but not a lot of other guys didn't really step up. I mean, Gafford needs to step up. Derrick Jones Jr. has to step up. Tim Hardaway Jr. has to step up. So there really is. If the Mavs don't want this series to be over with quick, they're going to have those guys have to help out Kyrie and Luka.
Not only that, they got to step up their intensity, especially with the defense within the interior. The Clippers did that yesterday. The Mavericks did not. So I'm looking for head coach Jason Kidd for the Mavericks to make some adjustments and bang the boards, crash the boards if you're the Dallas Mavericks. Crash the boards and match the intensity that the Clippers set yesterday, especially from the inside.
Off to Boston we go, as Boston had no trouble with Miami in game 1, 114-94. I mean, look, the Bulls could have done that. It would have been a little more entertaining, but again, that shit.
Right.
Well, I'm telling the truth, Sid. 23 points.
Yeah.
Triple-double for Jason Tatum, 23 points, 10 assists, 10 boards. Derek White had 23 points. Jaylen Brown had 17 for them. Al Horford, we saw a little bit of the old playoff Al Horford with 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, though, for Miami, Bam had 24 points, and really that's about it. I mean, Jaime Jaquez Jr. had 16, but really not a lot to show for Miami. I mean, the Boston was able to jump on them, and they didn't look back.
I'm going to pull one of your numbers, Lakeem, for those of you that are watching on the YouTube and the Facebook. Tyler Hero, where are you? Duncan Robinson, where are you? Where are you? Both of those guys did not show up yesterday. We knew it was going to be tough, especially after the injury to Jimmy Butler 1 week ago tomorrow in the play-in game against Philadelphia last week. But it's going to have to be a collective team effort. And Bam Adebayo We all know how good he is, but it's going to be a team effort all around as far as scoring is concerned. Tyler Hero had some big shots last year, along with Duncan Robinson. Both those guys are going to have to step up if Miami has any chance of stealing a game or two in this series. But like I said on Friday's show, and I'll say it here, I see what Boston in the sweep. I think Miami will play better in game 2, but without Jimmy Butler, it's just not going to be enough.
Could be a wrap, pretty quick if you're Miami. So you want to try to steal game 2. I said try, but it's going to be a tough task. So you have a tough task. I mean, going to Saturday's games. Denver held off the Lakers 114-103. Jokic had 32. Anthony Davis on the flip side for the Lakers had 30, also had 32, but it wasn't enough. I mean, they tried to get things going in the second half. They did push them a little bit. But 18 points in the third quarter, that's not gonna win you a lot of games. So if you're the Lakers, you're kind of like, look, I know some people are already giving the Nuggets the series, but if LeBron did his thing, he had 27, but D'Lo only had 13, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, I should say, had 13. Austin Reeves only had 13. The guys gonna have to step up if you're the Lakers. Another team that was only 8 for 29 from 3-point range. That's not gonna do it, especially trying to keep up with the defending champs.
Yeah, the Lakers played the best half that they played in a while against the Denver Nuggets over the last couple of years that these two teams have played against each other, both the regular season and playoffs. That was almost a perfect first half. But as you mentioned, the end of the third quarter when Denver put on that run, you felt the game slipping away. Now, the Lakers did try to fight back in the fourth, but it was too much Nikola Jokic, too much Aaron Gordon, and Jamal Murray had some big baskets in there as well during their run. But like you said, Lakina, for the Lakers, they're going to have to get more production, especially from their bench. I know Taurean Prince had 11 points, but no one else contributed a single point from the Lakers bench. Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell both are going to have to play better. And I don't know what kind of defensive schemes that Darvin Ham may have up his sleeve, but he's going to have to try it against Jokic. Now, Jokic didn't get going really until that second half, so they did a decent job on him, but you may just have to let Jokic score the points to shut down everyone else, because as we talked about on Friday, Aaron Gordon, who had a heck of a series against them last year, he's going to step up to the plate. Jamal Murray is the Batman he's the Robin to Joker's Batman. So, and don't forget about Christian Brown, who had some surprising moments in last year's finals. He's going to be a factor too. And don't forget about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who had some big buckets in that game on Saturday. So the Lakers was really a tale of two halves. So if they can find a way to defend the Joker and shut Gordon and Jamal Murray down, I think they can still game 2. Will they still get swept? No, but I know there's no such thing as moral victories. But if you're the Lakers, you just got to tighten up in the second half. The first half was great, but like I mentioned, the end of that third quarter, that's when the game slipped out of hand for the Lakers.
Could we just see what happens in that series? The Knicks and the Sixers, Embiid got banged up. The knee, started to bother him.
Why are you trying that play?
I know.
Why are you trying that play off the backboard? I know you got caught up in the moment, but you already have a banged up knee.
Yeah, that was not very smart on his part. You would think he would know better, but he did come back and finish the game. Tyrese Maxey had 33 points, but Tobias Harris, where are you? Where are you, buddy? And Kelly Oubre Jr., Nicholas Batum. I mean, those guys got to step up if they want to try to make this a series with the Knicks. And Jalen Brunson had 22. Josh Hart hit some big shots late with 22 points. But a guy off the bench, Miles McBride, a third year guy, I should say, from West Virginia. The name sounded familiar. Had 21 points, and he hit some big shots late as well for the Knicks.
What did I tell you when we did our preview show last Friday with Scoop Jackson, Josh Hicks, and Matt Pack regarding this series? I said rebounding was going to be the key, and the Knicks had a plus 22 advantage over Philadelphia, 55-33. And Joel Embiid, as we talked about last week, and we're mentioning here, ever since he got nicked up again, no pun intended, toward the end of the regular season. He did not look good in the play-in game last week against Miami. He gave you what he could offensively, but defensively, he's still limited. And you saw that again last Saturday afternoon in Game 1. And the Knicks took advantage of it, and there's no mistakes why they dominated the game from the inside, especially in the rebounding department. Now, for Philadelphia in Game 2, like you said, Tobias Harris going to have to step up. You have to get something out of Nicholas Batum. He had a couple of big baskets in their win last week against Miami in the play-in game. But you got to get something from him again. On the flip side, for the Knicks, just keep continuing to shoot the ball from the outside. They did that from the three-point range, shooting at a 45% clip. Jalen Brunson was the man again, as you mentioned. Josh Hart had some big buckets. So it's going to be a total team effort again for the New York Knicks. But for Philadelphia, you're going to need 2 or 3 guys to help out Joel Embiid, especially with him being limited on the defensive end.
We got to go real quick so we're up against it. But okay. Minnesota handled Phoenix and Orlando. Kind of got a little up to the playoffs, and the Cavs both lose their respective games.
Real quick on the Minnesota-Phoenix series. Anthony Edwards, we talked about him 3 years ago, having this coming out party, no pun intended, against Memphis, and we saw some glimpses then. He's come full circle, and he went at Kevin Durant, especially in that third quarter when he scored 18 points in that third quarter. I'm talking about Anthony Edwards. He had Kevin Durant smiling, but as we talked about on the show all year, Lakina, Phoenix's bench outside of Royce O'Neal and Eric Gordon, they have none, and they really don't have a point guard. And they gotta have to find a defender, perhaps maybe Royce O'Neal to defend Anthony Edwards. We'll see what happens there. With the Cleveland-Orlando series, how sure as hard as hell for Orlando. I'm not saying this series is over, but like you said, they got a wake-up call last Saturday afternoon, welcome to the playoffs. They missed a lot of close-in shots.
Very close.
On top of the Magic.
Yeah, you could probably say could have won that game to had they had made half those shots. So
yeah,
we'll see if they could figure it out there. Now tonight's game, speaking of Orlando and Cleveland, this game 2 will be at 6:00 on NBA TV. You got Philadelphia and the Knicks. Hopefully the Sixers can steal one. That'll be the first game of the NBA. The NBA doubleheader on TNT. Game 2 of that series. Also game 2 as well. We'll see if the Lakers can steal one in the Mile High City as they face Denver again in game 2 at 9:00, also on TNT.
Tomorrow, Tuesday, your schedule looks like this: 3 games. On TNT, we'll have Suns and Timberwolves Western Conference first round, game 2 of that series. At 7:30 on NBA TV, game 2 of the Milwaukee-Indiana series. And at 9:00 on TNT tomorrow, the Mavericks and the Clippers in the first round, game 2 of that series. And that will take place. So that's your schedule for Tuesday.
All right. Just a couple of games on Wednesday. Both of these are also game 2s. You got Miami and Boston. We'll see if Miami can try to make this into a series at 6:00 on TNT. And after that game, hopefully New Orleans can, give, maybe they can get over the hump and probably steal one in OKC at 8:30 on TNT, game 2 of their series with the Thunder.
Here's your schedule for Thursday. Game 3 of the Cleveland-Orlando series will take place in Orlando at 6:00 Chicago time on NBA TV. At 6:30 on TNT, Game 3 of the New York-Philadelphia series will take place in the city of brotherly love, followed by the Nuggets and the Lakers from La La Land at 9:00 p.m. on TNT. That's Game 3 of that first round series. And that's your schedule for Thursday and for this upcoming week in the NBA playoffs.
All right, we're going to stretch here as we wrap things up here on Second City Sports and Sports Zone Chicago. We'll do that hockey as the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Actually, have a couple of thrillers over the weekend. Also, some MLB this week. Some sports media news, some very intriguing things, maybe happening. A former NFL MVP calls it a career officially. And, of course, Old School TV Monday and a whole lot more. Lakina McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, where we wrap things up coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're rocking and rolling right here on a Monday afternoon, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, and just going on the IG.
We have less than 25 minutes remaining of this broadcast for today. If you have any last-minute questions or comments during our last break of the show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on Roku TV.
All right, Sid, where do you want to go first? We got a lot to get to these next
Let's get that baseball.
All right. Of course, we talked about it with our new buddy Chris Boden from WGNTV earlier. Of course, the Cubs with a tough split against the Marlins, including losing the rubber match. They left 9 guys on base in the last game yesterday. Even though Connors actually did have his best. Well, I know he gave up 4 runs, but that actually was still his best outing this year. So go figure with that one. But so many chances, Azalea blowing a save in the first game on Saturday. They did end up, coming back and winning that second game, that doubleheader. But yeah, you can't really afford to have these kind of splits against teams you should be able to beat pretty easily. So a little bit, if you're Craig Counsell, you're kind of, I don't want to say he's frustrated, but you're kind of like, yeah, you left a lot of runs on the table in that series with the Marlins.
As we say all the time, no matter what sport we're talking about, you have to play you have to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, and you have to be around 500 against the teams that are equal and better than you. The Cubs had a chance to take 3 out of 4 this weekend, like we said on last Friday on the show. You cannot afford to split the series or lose the series against the Miami Marlins team that's still trying to get themselves out of an early season hole. So you're giving that team fake confidence, as I would say, with them taking the 2 games on the north side. But Craig Counsell, as you mentioned, has some problems on his hands. I think I'm not going to say that will be solved pretty quickly, but some action is going to have to take place. I think Albert Alzolay deserves one more chance. If he can't get it done, then yeah, you have to go through other options. But Kyle Hendricks, I think I would skip him when his turn comes up, and then hopefully he can figure out then. And like you mentioned at the top, Justice Steele and Isaiah Suzuki, hopefully they're on their way back within the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. And so even though the Cubs help maybe turn it upwards, we talked about it before, their bullpen is still struggling, and now that the back end of that rotation is not doing well. But we talked about doing the interview with Boden. Give Jordan Wicks credit. He stepped up. Javier Assad has really stepped up as well. So not all is bad, but you really want to have everything in sync.
Yeah, I mean, Naga has been really solid for the Cubs as well, and he's actually been pretty good too. So Michael Busch had a couple of big hits in that second game, that Saturday doubleheader. He did have another RBI yesterday. Unfortunately, the Cubs weren't able to pull it out, the 3 out of 4. But they faced Houston. Houston's been struggling lately, so another team that may have a chance to at least win the series against them. Hopefully they can kind of take it out on the Astros. So we'll see. It should be interesting. But yeah, I'm not gonna oh my God, the size. They're still right there to think of it in that division. So I'm not freaking out just yet.
The White Sox, I'll keep this to a minimal. Zach Wheeler pitched 7 1/3 no-hit ball. This only time I saw live action was when I got the alert on my phone that he was throwing a no-hitter. I kind of, even though I love the Sox, I kind of wish Zach Wheeler would have threw that no-hitter. Because remember, he was one of the pitchers that Reinsdorf and Rick Hahn and crew were trying to go after following the 2019 season. Of course, Zach Wheeler's wife said she wanted to stay on the East Coast, and so they did, and he went to Philadelphia. Yesterday, Lakina put a video up on my Twitter feed. The Sunday Clown Show continues, something along those lines. Manning Sosa now back down in the minor leagues, replaced by Danny Mendick. Sosa threw the ball yesterday, messed up a rundown, threw the ball away. Your boy Eloy hit his first home run of the year. Nick Mastrini, who I think has a bright future after beating Kansas City last week, struggled yesterday against a better lineup with the Phillies. We talked about them last week. And Andrew Benintendi dropped the easy foul ball. He dropped an easy foul ball, Lakina. You thought this couldn't get any worse. It can, and it happened again yesterday.
How much is he getting paid?
$75 million.
Your 2024 Chicago White Sox, ladies and gentlemen, and it was just, oh God, it was just Philadelphia, like you said. I mean, they're right there to think of it in their NL East, I should say. They're only down to 1 game, and they've won 6 in a row. So, like I said, Phillies, they're just the Sox were just what you guys needed. So, to keep that pad some wins, get that win streak going. So, 5.5 more months of this. Yay! If you're a White Sox fan.
Let's move on before I lose it.
Okay. Let's move on here. The Yankees, of course. I saw our buddy Brandon Shaw said something about it earlier in the comments about there was actually some argument about balls and strikes. Aaron Boone got ejected. A fan berated that umpire. So it was just but they did end up winning 2 out of 3 against the Rays. So I think that's the most important thing if you're the Yankees. You're still, because you got the Orioles. They had a nice weekend breathing down your necks as well. So, and everyone in the East did okay. I mean, the Blue Jays won 2 out of 3 against the Padres, helping the Dodgers out a little bit there in that division. The Red Sox swept their weekend series. So, it's going to be at least for a little bit, it's going to be a long jam in that AL East.
To the New York Yankees, congratulations to them. They honored John Sterling, the longtime radio voice of the Yankees. He retired around this time last week, and so they had a pregame ceremony in his honor. Obviously he was there last Saturday afternoon before the game, and looks like the Yankees starting pitch is starting to come around a little bit here. I know Nestor Cortez pitched that game on Saturday. He is the starting pitcher on the losing end. He had 7 strikeouts in 6 innings. Remember, he had his struggles last year through injuries and inconsistency. It looks like he's starting off 2024 on a high note. But those bats are starting to pick up for the Yankees. They scored 10 runs in a 3-game series in their 2 wins. They scored 5 runs on last Friday, and they scored 5 runs again yesterday.
Yeah, good. Really saw a showing there, and yeah, that was a nice way for him to go out. So I'm glad they were able to kind of get it going there as well. The Guardians looks like they're starting to heat up a little bit. They swept the A's, and their pitching has been really solid. Josh Naylor had 3 RBIs in that series. Their best, the A's, they have their best start now since 1999. Cleveland does.
Yeah, I'm not going to say Josh Naylor is your early front runner for AL and MVP. We still have a long way to go, but he sure as heck is playing like it. Of course, you still have Jose Ramirez over there, even though he's not punching his Ramirez with a punch out anymore. But that Cleveland lineup is still solid. I know Shane Bieber, their starting pitcher, is out for the year, but as long as Cleveland can have some sort of consistency on offense, I think they'll be fine. There's going to be between them and the Detroit Tigers battling out for that ugly AL Central Division title.
Could be interested to see in that division. So the Royals actually had a tough show, and they kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles after winning the first game on Friday, but they lose the last 2. And yeah, not worried about the Royals just yet, but you kind of think that they're starting to kind of fall back to earth a little bit. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Detroit, they're kind of meandering a little bit. I mean, they did win 2 out of 3 against the Twins. So Casey Mize threw 6 shutout innings. He got his first win since all the way back in 2021, the COVID year. But yeah, I mean, the Tigers are still right there to think of it as well in that AL Central.
Yeah, but like I said, the Tigers have a great bullpen. Looks like their starting pitching is going to be the key, and they don't have the big names as far as Bopper is concerned. Of course, Miguel Cabrera is retired. I know they still have Spencer Torkelson, but it looks like it's going to be their pitching is going to be the strength of their team. And yes, they still have Javi Baez, who many Chicago fans, White Sox fans in particular, hate for various reasons. But it looks like their pitching is going to be the strength of their team, and so we'll see what happens with the Tigers. As I said before the season started, I did not pick them to go to the playoffs, but I said that's the kind of team that can sneak up on some people. Right now, they have.
And they have, so we'll see if they can keep it up there. Now, the AL West is getting a little bit interesting, as well as the Rangers. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Braves, while the flip side from the Mariners, they win 2 out of 3 against the Rockies. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, the offense of both teams are really solid. It's really going to be the pitching and the defense so they're still like right there. The Rockies, I should say the Mariners are right there breathing down the Rangers next.
Yeah, did you see that postponement on Friday, Lakeem, going back to the Mariners and Rockies? They had snow.
Yes, they did.
Speaking of that, I know this is off topic a little bit, Lakeem. Remember you asked me, I think I asked you or you asked me, remember we were talking about the Yankees? Remember they had opening day
yes.
with the snow? It was back in April of 1996.
Oh, wow. It's been that long. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's when they had snow opening day. Yeah, but back to today's times. Seattle had their game postponed last Friday night against Colorado because of snow. But like you said, they made it up and they took 2 out of 3. I want to talk about the Rangers. You mentioned they avoided the sweep of the Atlanta Braves. They won 6-4 last night. Adolis Garcia, he's if you guys didn't see him during the playoff run last year with the Texas Rangers winning the World Series, if you saw any of the highlights from last night's game, you know why he's one of the best young hitters and young players in baseball. He basically was responsible for the Rangers' win last night. He had an RBI, he had a home run late, and he's just a great young hitter. And he should be getting more props than he already had, than people give him credit for. That's just me, in my opinion.
Yeah, he really has been right there to think of video for them. So hopefully he can keep it up, and perhaps maybe he can kind of like leave that team to the promised land still, because it's still like right there to think of it. So we'll see what happens there. Now going into the NL, like I said, the Braves and the Phillies are kind of right there. Like I said, the Phillies swept the White Sox, just what they needed to kind of keep in touch with the Braves. Although the Mets got a nice series win against the Dodgers. We'll get to the Dodgers in a second. As a real Dodgers fan, I'm sure are freaking out, but they did win 2 out of 3. They get shit out in the last game of the series, 10-0. But if you're the Mets, you consider where you were initially, you gotta be feeling pretty good at where you're at right now.
Yeah, the offense came alive, especially in that first game, winning 9-4 last Friday night, and they held on for a 6-4 win last Saturday to take the series. But the Mets bullpen outside of Edwin Diaz looks like it's starting to come into form a little bit. We'll see what happens with them. On the flip side for the Dodgers, congrats to Shohei Ohtani. He has the most home runs of any Japanese-born player in MLB. I know he climbed that feat yesterday. Tyler Glasnow had a great performance on the mound for the Dodgers, even though he struggled in his last start. But for the Dodgers, I'm not saying it's panic time. I know they're 13-11 right now, but they still got to have some things figured out in their bullpen. Their starting staff, even though it's good, they still waiting for Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler to get back. Both those guys will return later on in the year, but everything has to click offensively for the Dodgers yet. I still believe they're the most dangerous offense in the National League, next to the Braves and next to the Chicago Cubs. But just something has to click yet for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Are we living in the last days of seeing Gavin Lux in that uniform? Miguel Rojas is still playing shortstop for them. I know Max Muncy is still having big clutch hits for them. We talked about Mookie Betts moving him around, and Freddie Freeman still having a big bat, but that offense as a whole hasn't been clicking consistently this season.
Yeah, I would like I said, I wouldn't panic on the Dodgers just yet. I just think that there's a little bit of little wiggle room here. So I think they'll figure it out. Like you said, I mean, like they getting Bueller and Kershaw back. I think they got to keep everything afloat because they probably back till probably around the summertime. So if you're them, you want to kind of like try to stay afloat so that you can try to perhaps maybe put yourself a little bit room between the Padres and the Giants to kind of like keep everyone else at bay. So we'll see.
Yeah, speaking of World Series, the Washington Nationals they honored their 2019 World Series team. Of course, this season is the 5-year anniversary of their team. They won the last 2 games of the series against the Houston Astros. They had a shutout victory, 6-0 yesterday, and they beat the Astros on that day. They honored the team last Saturday, 5-4.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of happens in that series because that was a pretty thrilling ending to that series yesterday. So I'm looking forward to kind of see like what else is going to be in store.
And the San Francisco Giants, as you mentioned them earlier, they had that 4-game series with the Arizona Diamondbacks at home. They split the 4-game series against the defending National League champs.
Yeah, but just see like the Giants. The Giants can be kind of disappointing this year. They're 3 games under, but they're still kind of right there in the thick of it in that West. So they're gonna have to figure it out. If they want to try to stay within striking distance in that division.
All right, and speaking of the New York Giants, they'll play the San Francisco Giants. Oh, it's not an inter-squad game. They'll host the New York Mets tonight. Here's the rest of the schedule for tonight and for this week in MLB. Of course, the Chicago White Sox will travel to Minnesota to take on the Twins. Oh boy, Oakland and the Yankees will play. They're actually playing the first game of the series right now. It's scoreless. Milwaukee will visit Pittsburgh. Philadelphia will face Cincinnati. They swept Anaheim at home over the weekend. The Tigers will travel down to Tampa to take on the Rays. The Miami Marlins will travel to Atlanta to face the Braves. The Blue Jays and Royals will do battle in Kansas City. And the San Diego Padres will take on the Colorado Rockies. Baltimore will start their West Coast road trip. They'll start in Anaheim against Chris Gilman's Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. As I mentioned, the Mets will start their West Coast road trip. They'll play San Francisco.
And other series, the Dodgers and the Nationals, they start tomorrow. Try to say Miami and Atlanta. In that series, the Cubs, they start their series against the Astros. They host the Astros. The first game will actually be on TBS, their Tuesday game of the week. So since I can't watch Marquee, I got YouTube TV, I'll have to check that out on there if it's not blacked out. The Diamondbacks and the Cardinals, the Mariners and the Rangers. That should be a interesting series there. The top 2 teams in the AL West. That's it for the television side as well. Toronto and the Royals, they wrap up their series on ESPN Plus on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Baltimore and the Angels, that'll be on ESPN Plus, that game of that series. And the Mets and the Giants, the first game of that series, will be on ESPN Plus as well tonight.
All right, and that's your schedule for Major League Baseball for this upcoming week. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. All right, Lakina, let's do that hockey. We're going to go forwards here, and we'll do the Saturday games and, of course, yesterday's contest. Saturday's results: your Carolina Hurricanes defeated the New York Islanders by a score of 3-1, and the Boston Bruins, behind 2 power play goals, defeated the Toronto Maple Leafs in Game 1 of that Eastern Conference First Round Series 5-1.
That's one more game, of the playoff game, than they won last year. So they're already well ahead of schedule. They're already well ahead of schedule there. But yeah, I saw that. I saw the Islanders Hurricanes game. I mean, the Hurricanes, they scored quick, but the Islanders were able to come back and score. But it was kind of all Hurricanes. After that, Evgeny Kuznetsov had a goal and a couple of assists there, so they were able to pull that out. It was all Boston in that game against Toronto. Like, I didn't even bother watching the rest of that game.
Agreed. Now here's the results from yesterday. Of course, in the Eastern Conference First Round, the Florida Panthers defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Battle of Florida there in Game 1, 3-2. The New York Rangers defeated the Washington Capitals 4-1 to take a 1-0 series lead. In that first round series, it looked like the Capitals did not belong on the ice with the New York Rangers. I saw a little bit of that game. Alex Ovechkin, you might as well start your summer vacation. I know he's going to disagree with me on that, but Washington did not belong on the ice with the Rangers yesterday. The New York, I almost said it. The Winnipeg Jets defeated the Colorado Avalanche in a high-scoring affair, 7-6. That was a very charged-up atmosphere in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And the Vancouver Canucks in that first round series defeated the Nashville Predators 4-2 to take a 1-0 lead in that series.
Definitely a thriller in that Jets Avalanche series. That place was rocking, like you said. So the first time I think the Jets have played in the playoff series in a few years. So that place was rocking there. They were ready to go. And Vancouver, they're on a mission. So are the Rangers. So it'll be interesting to see if those 2 teams can keep it up there.
All right, here's your schedule for the Stanley Cup Playoffs tonight. Game 2 of the Maple Leafs Bruins series will be at 6 o'clock on ESPN, followed by Islanders and Hurricanes. Game 2 of that series, that's at 6:30 on ESPN2. 2 series start tonight. Weird NHL, weird as far as scheduling. 8:30 on ESPN. Game 1 of the Dallas Stars versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, that's the rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. And at 9 o'clock on ESPN2, the Kings and the Oilers will meet up in the first round for the 3rd year in a row.
Yeah, I feel like they should know each other well. So it'll be interesting to see who will get the rubber match here in that series. Now, on tomorrow, Tuesday, the Capitals will try to make it a series against the Rangers at 6 o'clock on ESPN. The Battle of Florida continues as the Lightning will try to tie their series against the Panthers at 6:30 on ESPN2. Colorado lost a thriller there to Winnipeg, so we'll see if they can get it back going there at 8:30 on ESPN. And the Preds and the Canucks, the Preds will try to tie that series. Had some opportunities slip away there. We'll see what happens at 9 o'clock tomorrow on ESPN2.
Stanley Cup final schedule for Wednesday. Game 3 of the Bruins Maple Leafs series will take place in Toronto at 6 o'clock on ESPN. Game 2 of the Golden Knights Stars series at 8:30 on ESPN. And on TBS on Wednesday at 9 o'clock, the Kings and the Oilers in Game 2 of that series from Edmonton.
Should be a good one there. Thursday, the first game will be on TBS at 6 o'clock. We'll see if the series is tied, this will be a rubber match, or will the Florida Panthers will be up 2-0. Nonetheless, it'll still go on at 6 o'clock on TBS. Game 3. Same thing with the Carolina Islanders series. We'll see where they at. Hopefully, maybe Islanders could steal one tonight. We'll see. But it'll be at 6. Game 3 will be at 6:30 on ESPN2.
All right, and that's your schedule for the Stanley Cup playoffs for this upcoming week. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. We have just a couple minutes left. We'll get to a special edition of Old School TV Monday in just a moment. But Lakina has some sports media news she likes to share with the rest of the class.
Yes, yes, just a little bit, a few minutes here before we go to Old School TV Monday. A special edition there, another one. Matt Ryan announced that he is retiring officially. Of course, he won MVP in 2016 for the Falcons. He signed a 1-year deal. He actually sent a really nice letter to Atlanta and the Falcons organization, the city of Atlanta. So that was a really really nice moment there. So. Of course, he's got a buddy career on CBS. So his 50-year career, 381 touchdowns, almost 63,000 passing yards. That's ranked 7th all time in NFL history for passing yards and 9th career TD passes. So he is in the top 10. So do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
Yes. And he has an MVP, as you mentioned, in his belt. I know he played in one Super Bowl, and it was not his fault why the Falcons lost, by the way. It was Kyle Shanahan, then the offensive coordinator of the Falcons, but we won't revisit his history. But he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. It'll be a shame if he doesn't get in at all, but he'll get in.
Yeah,
but he shouldn't have to wait.
Yeah, so he's not going to get it first round, but he will have to wait maybe a couple years. But yeah, 15 seasons, very solid. Like I say, he's got a budding career at CBS. So congrats to a great career, Mr. Ryan there. And some other news. May 5th, mark your calendars. Tom Brady will be the latest victim to be celebrity roasted on next.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yes, of course, Kevin Hart will be the MC there. So it'll be interesting to see who appears in one of the good is going to who doesn't appear will be the interesting part there. But but yeah, it should be hilarious. I know Brady, I know he's over he was watching El Clasico over in Spain yesterday in Madrid, but I'm sure he's already like quivering to see who's gonna be roasting him.
It'll be a shock if Bill Belichick and or Robert Kraft are there.
Well, yeah, that'll be that wouldn't be a big surprise, but yeah, you gotta think. I'd be disappointed if Peyton and Eli Manning aren't there, if Nick Foles isn't there. Who else? I don't know.
Bruce Arians
will make an appearance as well. So it'll be it should be live on Netflix on May 5th at 8 Eastern time, 7 Central time, 5 Pacific. Okay, and 6 o'clock Mountain Time. Doing the old ones from back in the day. Perhaps maybe Drew Henson might be there too, the former Michigan quarterback. Of course, they play against each other. So it's going to be hilarious, but we'll see what happens.
And I'm sure Julie Edelman's going to be there as well, hopefully, because they're now teammates officially now at Fox.
Right, exactly, and Gronk too. So
So I'll be shocked that Gronk is not there.
Yeah, it should be hilarious who's going to end up going there. As well. And some breaking news here for more NFL breaking news. The Jets are trading Zach Wilson to the Broncos. That deal includes a late round pick swap for this year, so 6 for 7. And the Jets will pay some of Wilson's salary, which is $5.5 million per year. Rappaport.
All right, so Zach Wilson is no longer a member of the New York Jets. The Jets, I don't know if they picked up a veteran backup yet. If they haven't, they will very soon. So it's all about Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully he stays healthy. And it's all about saving the GM job of Joe Douglas and the head coach Robert Saleh. Just saying.
Could be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, we'll get to this with Miss Christine Manica from KSRB when she comes back here at 1. But I'm interested, Sid, to see like I said, the NBA. There's some rumors that perhaps Alistair may want to put the conference finals and the NBA finals perhaps maybe on streaming. That's the word? Maybe?
Like we talked about before we started, before we went on live. I know streaming is the name of the game, but if you do that, especially during your best time of the year, the numbers is just not going to work. If you have it as an option, fine, but do it exclusively on streaming where you cut down the numbers by a lot. It's just not going to work, in my opinion.
Yeah, gonna be interesting. We'll get more to this for Christine coming up. on Friday. But yeah, I just wanted to make that little ditty there. So this is Second City Sports on Chicago. Ken McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Okay, Sid, it's that time. Old School TV Monday, a special edition. Once again, tell us what's the subject, please.
The subject is, of course, Howie Schwab. He passed away, the longtime ESPN producer and statistician. He passed away over the weekend at the age of 63. He had a TV show called Stump the Schwab. It was an American game show that aired on ESPN2 and ESPN Classic from July 8th of 2004 until September 29th of 2006. The show featured 3 contestants trying to defeat Howie Schwab, ESPN's first statistician in a sports trivia contest. The late Stuart Scott was the show's host. The show also appeared on Canada's The Score television network. Each episode of the show had 3 rounds, leading off a second round that featured a different game each time in the Schwab Showdown. After each of the first 2 rounds, the contestant with the lowest score was eliminated. 3 male contestants competed against the Schwab in a series of 3 rounds, with the lowest scoring player being eliminated after each round.
Yeah, when I saw he had been battling cancer the last few months, and I saw that he passed. Like, yeah, Sid's gonna want to do something Schwab for Old School TV Monday. But yeah, I mean, it was hard to stump. I think he was only stumped maybe like a handful of times that whole entire run the show was on, and he was definitely like the encyclopedia. He was kind of like an almanac when it came to sports stats and trivia and whatnot. So it was just a really, the concept was really cool. It's unfortunate it didn't last as long as it kind of like the novelty kind of wore off after the first season. But yeah, I mean, you learned a lot. He was like the statistician there for many years, and he was definitely all the stuff. Stats and info. He posted a lot of that stuff, and when it first started posting it on their social media, so he was definitely one of the all-time greats there outside of the sports center anchors and people like that. So. That's it's a tough loss, but yeah, prayers to his wife and their children and the rest of the family.
Yes, we'd like to echo the same sentiments right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Going back to the TV show, I remember watching it on occasions, Lakina. Yeah, I know it was on ESPN too, so it was trying to establish an audience, which it eventually did. But I remember watching those reruns on ESPN Classic. Those reruns were very interesting, and someone put it on social media over the weekend. It was the sports nerd's very favorite TV show, and I could concur. It's like a lot of things I knew, the things I didn't know, I took it as a history lesson. I learned right there and there on that show from watching that show.
Yeah, I mean, you
definitely hands down.
Yeah, it was definitely stuff that you didn't. Some of the stuff you did know, but there were every once in a while he did like stuff you were stuff like, oh wait, I didn't know that. So that was a pretty cool concept there as well. And whoever thought of that, I'm sure they got a little bit of a raise there for a little bit. So definitely kind of like one of those days where you just like, did you know? Or it was kind of one of those days where kind of the water cooler type shows where you kind of you had to think like, oh, okay, so that's stuff I didn't know. So like, stuff that sports nerds in your life. That's definitely one. If you're a sports statistician or would-be statistician, you get all these other websites now. I think that kind of started the trend of sports stats and and those types of things. So they definitely kind of paved the way there. The show did.
Yeah, right before analytics and all this stuff that we're quoting now. Like I said, all this started in the beginning with Stump the Schwab, and you can check out a couple of episodes on YouTube. And I was watching it this morning, so I remember watching some of these. So for those of you that are looking for clips, you can just type in Stump the Schwab, and you can find it right on YouTube.
And I think there've been some variations of it since then. So yeah, I mean, especially with all the stuff that's all the new records that are being broken with LeBron, breaking all those records. Mahomes breaking all the records. Of course, Caitlin Clark as well. So yeah, I think definitely a new iteration probably could probably come about. So to kind of like make sure everyone's like quick on their feet when it comes to the sports trivia. So it kind of takes sports trivia to a whole nother level, I think.
Yes. So for today's special edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the ESPN TV game show from the mid-2000s, Stump the Schwab. And we'd like to say once again, peace and love to the Howie Schwab family during this very challenging time.
With that said, you can follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. And don't forget to follow War Media at WARR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more time, as Lakina would say. Catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Of course, if you go over Roku TV, you have in your app store, whether it's Google or Apple, you'll just type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch our show, replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellows, What's Up Cuz, and other great content. There's 30 hours of content there, so it's all right there for you.
Yeah, and we will provide.
And of course, we want to thank our new buddy, veteran TV sports anchor and reporter for WGN Sports, Mr. Chris Boden, for joining us. We were able to overcome those early hiccups, Wi-Fi hiccups earlier, so we were able to have a great interview with him. So again, go back and watch Tune on the Roku channel. Of course, you can go back here on the Sports Chicago's Facebook YouTube channel as well.
Yes. So go out there and make it a great week. I know the weather's supposed to be challenging throughout the parts of the country. I know we're supposed to get some rain later on this week in Chicago, but go out and make it a great sports week. We got the Stanley Cup Playoffs. The NBA playoffs are off and running, and we still have baseball. Are you into the UFL, Lakina?
I try to watch a little bit of it as much as I can, just because I like the guys that are calling the games, but I don't really watch it like that. But I usually check it out a little bit.
Okay, but we got all this great sports happening right now, so enjoy it, watch it, and we'll discuss it right back here on Friday, and along with our coverage of the NFL Draft's first round action.
Oh, thank God it'll be over with all this weirdness. And all this truth is coming, gonna be ending soon. So like I said, thank the Lord. So we'll see you guys Friday. Yeah, we'll see you guys Friday for all the great stuff coming up here on Second City Sports. On Sports Chicago, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys Friday.
Till then, holla!